Yo, this is the Scarcity Studios YouTube channel. Please don't forget to like, comment, share and subscribe. And our sponsors are Alpha Claims and Hire Birmingham, the leading and best accident management company. Get a replacement car anywhere in 1 hour. I really appreciate you joining me today, and this story comes from London and it involves a former German soldier and his niece. Police have convicted several people for their involvement in this case, and they believe that the niece of this German soldier called Sian Miller masterminded the distribution of ammunition to gangs across the country. In 2019, there was a total of 6,759 firearm offences in England and Wales. This was an increase of 4% on the year before, and the highest ever recorded was 7,000 offences in 2010 and 2011. Manfred Kurz, 61, from Germany, had a firearms licence and he moved to the UK in 2004. And this meant that he was able to even bring bullets with him from Germany. His niece, Sian Alexandra Miller, 25, began selling the ammunition to contacts throughout the country, police said. And on February the 5th, 2018, Miller's South London home was raided and police found 1,800 rounds of ammunition of varying calibers. They found 2 pistols and canisters of CS spray. They found bullet-making equipment, including empty cartridges, primers and black powder that could be used to make live rounds. They found also antique firearms, which I'll talk about more in a minute. The police said they couldn't be sure how much ammunition was on the street, but it could potentially be thousands of rounds. A cousin of Sian Miller called Lorenzo Brooks, 28 years old, and Lucas Duncan, 22 years old, also used their contacts in the underworld to sell the bullets to gang members across London and beyond. Following an investigation by the police, they raided the home of a woman called Sierra Denton, 21 years old, and they found her and her boyfriend Mishak Wright Martin with over 1,000 rounds of ammunition. The total amount of ammunition recovered in the operation was 3,100 rounds and 1 ounce of heroin as well. It was one of the Metropolitan Police's biggest hauls in recent times, and Detective Constable Marty Reeder from Trident Crime Command: "We believe this was destined for criminals with gang connections, and the amount of firepower in the hands of criminal fraternities already is a terrifying thought. Thankfully, Trident acted rapidly and they took this weaponry off the street before all of it could be used. Every person who lives and visits the capital should be thankful, and they've definitely saved lives by intercepting." The German soldier Kurz from Croydon admitted 2 counts of possession of firearms, 2 counts of possession of ammunition, possession of explosives and possession of component parts of a firearm. Brooks from Catford was found guilty of conspiracy to sell or transfer firearms and possession of components for firearms. Miller from South Norwood was found guilty of conspiracy to sell ammunition also, and Duncan and Wright Martin were found guilty of the same offences. And finally, Denton also got possession of Class A drugs. All 6 will be sentenced next year on April the 3rd. And this uncle and niece worked together under the radar to be very discreet and potentially make a lot of money from this. And what people also need to understand as well is that ammunition can sometimes be harder to obtain than the firearms. It's easy enough to get a firearm if you know how, but the ammunition to get it is also a totally different process and can cost a lot of money. There's been a lot of cases where criminals have even filed down bullets to fit into guns that they're not built for out of desperation for ammunition. Something else that has become popular as well in the UK is the converting of blank firing weapons. An article from May 2021 in the Evening Standard said that blank firing weapons were available to buy online from as little as £100, and officers of the Metropolitan Police said that illegal workshops have been set up in a number of areas to convert these guns and make the ammunition to fit them. One of the most common weapons is the Turkish rete, and it is a pistol and it is legally imported into the UK in a blank firing state. Detective Superintendent Nick Blackburn from the Metropolitan Specialist Crime Command said, "We're seeing a rise in the number of converted blank firing weapons that we recover. Most notably are the Turkish ones, and the ammunition is also more popular and being sold more often." They say that in the last year or 2, they found several factories in London, Manchester and other areas. It's a problem UK-wide and not just in London. Other forces are reporting the same types of guns that have become popular in getting converted. And police are trying to get manufacturers to make it harder to convert them. And they also want to try to change the law to make it illegal to own them. The Metropolitan Police has seized 56 firearms up until April the 28th, 2021. And there was 281 discharges from 2019 to 2020. So this is an insight into the reality of where people obtain weaponry from. Sometimes it is quite indescript and sometimes it's from the least suspecting people you'd imagine. In some other news relating to how weapons get onto the streets of London and where they come from, police have done a violent crime task force and seized 120 potentially lethal weapons that were being sold online. 3 men, 1 woman and a teenager have pled guilty to various offences after an investigation into weapons being sold on social media. Omar Truman, 27, from Westminster, pled guilty to possession of 58 bladed articles at Snaresbrook Crown Court and was jailed for 19 months. Fred Truman from Westminster pled guilty to possession of 58 bladed articles and was jailed for 14 months. A 17-year-old from Newham pled guilty to marketing them illegally online. The following individuals pleaded guilty after an investigation on Monday the 24th of May. At Snaresbrook Crown Court, Jordan Lovett from Newham pled guilty to an unlawful marketing of weapons and was jailed for 15 months for these offences. Luciana Mackenzie from Newham pled guilty to unlawful marketing also, and she received a 9-month suspended sentence and unpaid work of 80 hours. The court heard that the police became aware of the variety of weapons that was being sold: machetes, zombie knives and lock knives, and they were being advertised on a Snapchat account. Upon receiving the intelligence, the Violent Crime Task Force raided addresses in East London and recovered all 58 knives and machetes and lock knives. Inside the property, police found a further 70 knives, as well as empty packaging and shipment boxes, all addressed to Lovett. Some of the weapons seized from the Trumans were identical to those seized from inside the address. In total, 128 deadly weapons were recovered from the stop and search and subsequent search warrant. And they said this was simply driven by greed. And funny enough, you may remember FaZe Amnesty. I've been covering his story for quite a long time, and I recently covered the fact that he documented that he'd bought weapons from Snapchat, and he was trying to tell the police about this problem that people were profiting from selling weapons for kids on the street. And one of these companies is Anglo Arms. They don't make any mention if this assisted the police in their case. But of course, it's got to be good news to get these weapons off the street and potentially save children's lives. So I really appreciate you joining me, and I thought this was a really interesting series of stories to try to build up the picture of what is really going on in the inner city. So please don't forget you can get the latest updates on the website, and there's more news as well that can't be shown on YouTube due to the age restrictions and limitations that the videos have been getting put on. And don't forget to follow me on TikTok as well. I've just got 1 million views on a video, and I really appreciate everyone's support. And I'll be back again very shortly with some more news. Peace.